Where does every NFL team rank entering the 2025 NFL offseason? Welcome, football fans, to another BLV NFL reaction video. And in this video, I'm reacting to Nick Wright's NFL Team Tiers. From the worst to the best, Nick ranks every NFL team entering next season. Way too early edition. So let's check out what Nick has to say about your favorite team. Before we do, spike the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more NFL reactions just like this. I also, if you like rankings, rank everything every offseason. So make sure to subscribe. Let's get started, Nick. Give me something good, brother. I need something to talk about here. I need the blood to boil. I need the comments to go crazy. So, Nick, what do we got?
Hey, while wearing tuxedos, fresh from the dog show.
Shout out to the giant schnauzer.
Yeah, an elite
Bro does have a giant nose. At least he knows it, though.
group of statisticians, film gurus, and one guy who kept on singing,
Tom Brady's still a GOAT.
fought and toiled,
He is still the GOAT. You guys know that based on all the videos I've been making about Patrick Mahomes, boy. Yes, sir. Tom Brady's still the GOAT.
and burned the midnight oil. Deliver the best segment in all of sports television. It's an honor and a privilege. It's time for a way too early.
If you guys didn't see that segment, by the way, after the Chiefs lost, Nick Wright, obviously being a big Chiefs fan, it's a great segment. It is a great segment. I would go check it out. Obviously, no advertisement or anything, but I watched it for myself. I thought it was hilarious. So I would go watch it.
2025 edition of NFL Tiers.
Thank you, as always, for the wonderful introduction, Kevin Wilds. I was a little worried that today's tiers might be a little brief, but luckily, we, for the first time in show history, spent 3 full minutes in the open of the hour tease. And so now we're going to have to tighten it up. So all 32 teams represented again next week. Committee takes a break. Week after, NBA committee convenes. NBA tiers coming your way in March. Bottom of the tiers, the best season. Titans, Browns, Raiders, Giants, Saints, Panthers, Patriots.
Okay, let's break it down. Tennessee, first pick in the draft. Don't know their quarterback. Coach, I'm not a fan of. I agree. Cleveland Browns. Don't know who their quarterback is. I do like their coaching staff from Stefanski to Schwartz. Myles Garrett, though, probably on his way out. I don't love the roster as much as I did maybe a year or two ago. So given the quarterback questions and the Myles Garrett questions, I think I agree. The Cleveland Browns and then the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders don't have a quarterback either. I think the Raiders could be on the rise this offseason based on the fact that I think they have some fundamental elements now. Pete Carroll should be an improvement as their head coach. I like Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator hire. Let's see what happens at quarterback with them, whether it be Sam Darnold, a rookie, which direction they end up going. But they have good defensive and offensive line talent. So I feel like the Raiders could be sneaky decent next year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they might be better than this tier. The New York Giants don't have a quarterback right now. But what I like about them is I do still like Brian Daboll more than most. I think that Andrew Thomas returning to the left tackle spot is going to help their offensive line. I feel like they have a running back in Tracy. They have a receiver in Malik Neighbors. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. There's some pieces to work with offensively. Defensively, the D-line is pretty decent on paper when you've got Lawrence and you've got Burns and you've got Thibodeau and you've got a decent linebacking core, at least one linebacker. The secondary needs a lot of work. There's elements of the team that need a lot of work, but it's not really going to matter unless they find a quarterback, so I agree with that. They're definitely the worst team in their division. The New Orleans Saints, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm not really sold on the Kellen Moore hire, so to speak, but if Derek Carr is still the quarterback, I feel like they're going to be better than one of the worst teams in the league, right? Like, that's at least the way I feel, as long as they kind of resemble a similar roster that they currently have, right? Because the offense was kind of shining before Olave and Shaheed and Carr and everyone got hurt. Now, Kamara is definitely getting a little old and the O-line's a little shaky. Defensively, I do think they completely regressed last year and kind of fell off the map. So maybe they'll be kind of not terrible, but like not good either. So probably like a below average team. Then you've got the Carolina Panthers, who could be sneaky okay if they can fix their defense. There's still a lot of holes here. They need to add another receiver, but I think there's some promise for the coach in Canales and Bryce Young and the offensive line. So there's some elements I like. The Patriots are a team that I know that based on right now, they haven't really done anything to improve, but I think already you bring in Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, basically an entire new coaching staff from one of the worst to, in my opinion, a top tier staff. I think they're going to be in the top 10 this year. And then you look at, okay, Drake May, year 2, full offseason. He could explode onto the scene as a really good quarterback. They still need a lot of help on both the lines of scrimmage, offensive line especially. They've got some underrated talent on defense, though. I think the Patriots are going to be flirting with like a sneaky good season. And obviously I'm biased, but I could see the Patriots winning 8 to 10 games, and I wouldn't be that shocked. Now, this is, of course, banking on some improvements due to the most cap space in the NFL, the 3rd overall pick. There's things to like about where the Patriots stand, or the 4th overall pick. There's things to like about the Patriots, but it's probably like we're guessing or we're like predicting before. I don't really know what Nick is doing here in terms of like, is he trying to project at all? Because I think if you're projecting for the Patriots, they should be higher than this, in my opinion.
What does this mean? The best season? The off season. That's the best for the. Oh.
I assume he's going from Tennessee to New England in terms of like, I don't know. I could be wrong though. Do you guys think is it all the same, you guys think, on the bottom tier here? Or do you think he's going from Tennessee to New England or New England to Tennessee? It would make more sense if he was going Tennessee to New England, in my opinion.
Hope bounds aplenty. T. Higgins and draft picks and cap space and everything changing. And this is the best time of year if you're a fan of those 7 franchises.
Exactly.
Franchise QB questions.
Okay, so you got the Colts, the Falcons, the Jags, and the Arizona Cardinals. Interesting that he put Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray in the franchise QB questions tier. Now, for me, I think those guys are certainly better than Anthony Richardson and Michael Penix, but I could be wrong. I think the Patriots and the Panthers could be better than the Falcons next year. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I think the Patriots, I'd make a decent bet that they'll be better than the Colts. I'd also make a decent bet that the Patriots are better than Jacksonville. Although Liam Cohen could be a pretty promising coach. Jacksonville could be sneaky, depending on Trevor Lawrence. The Cardinals are just in a really tough division. So I could see them maintaining their spot at the bottom. The problem with the Cardinals, man, is not just that Kyler's shaky and kind of inconsistent, but their roster is just not that good. Like, if you put the Cardinals in the bottom tier, I would totally understand it, despite how successful they were during the middle portion of the season. They might have a little bit more of a back-down-to-earth season next year.
For Arizona,
they really got to do something, man. They have like $70 million in cap. They got to do something.
In Jacksonville, it is, can you play like we paid you to play? That's the real question. Those are both high. Kyler's contract now is not as onerous as it once was because it's age. Trevor's is quite onerous, but still. And for the Falcons and the Colts, it is, do we have one? And
I will answer that. I think the Colts don't have one. I think the Cardinals have one, but I don't think he's like a stud. I would say the same thing about Jacksonville. And then for the Falcons, I would say maybe. I would probably lean towards no if I had to guess.
I'm not doubting Michael Penix, but 2 games, we have no idea. And so, real franchise quarterback questions. More than a glimmer of hope.
Bears, I'm not sure why the Jets are not at the bottom. I am completely off the Jets, okay? Aaron Glenn, I'm not a huge fan of as a hire. I don't really love their overall coaching staff in general from what I've seen and heard. I don't know what the talent is on the offensive line. A lot of them are aging. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the whole Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner like trade and all that sort of stuff. And it was just a really bad locker room last year, so they have to get over that. It's a completely new regime. I think they're going to go through a lot of rocky parts of this season. I think he's completely overrating the Jets. I think they're the most overrated team on this list this year. I would put strong money on the Patriots being better than the Jets. I have no idea who the Jets quarterback is going to be, and I don't expect that quarterback to be very good. The defense for New York does have some promise with the talent that they have. They definitely could have a bounce back, but I don't think that will be enough for them to be successful, as we already know from watching the Jets the last couple of years. Chicago Bears, I can understand why he has a glimmer of hope for them, and same with Miami. I think Miami actually deserves to be maybe a little bit higher than Chicago and the Jets, just based on their recent success the last couple of years. Miami with Tua probably would have made the playoffs this year. Probably. But, he's never actually healthy. Now, that being said, Miami has to deal with the Tyreek Hill questions. They seem to be aging in certain departments as well, and they might have missed their window in terms of being the team that they wanted to be. It feels like they might take a step back this year, too.
That's for
Chicago could be the team that's on the rise from this tier for sure.
The Dolphins, Jets, and Bears, meaning I don't think that they are in the anything can happen category. To me, they're more than that as far as having, legitimately successful seasons. All three of these teams went into just this past season as favorites to be in the playoffs.
Okay, yeah, but what do the Jets have now? Aaron Rodgers is not going to be their quarterback. Who's their quarterback?
They were Vegas favorites to be in the playoffs. Now feels like the bottom has kind of fallen out for all three of these teams.
Chicago is understandable though, because they had a rookie quarterback, they had a bad coach in terms of that's at least their assessment. I could see how Chicago didn't work out. It was pretty obvious. The Jets, they kind of almost set themselves back a few years. The Dolphins, they've kind of just hit a wall of Tua never stays healthy.
For various reasons, I think they can bounce back, at least one of them, in some way, shape, or form. High floor, low ceiling. I don't know if our friends at DraftKings will make.
This is actually pretty fair. This is actually a really good tier. I kind of agree with this tier. Seattle's problem, in my opinion, is the fact that they have San Francisco and they have LA in their division, and also because they don't have a lot of cap space. So they have clear identifiable needs like the offensive line. We'll see how the new offensive coordinator takes shape and how that improves or doesn't improve the offense, because that was kind of one of my issues last year. The offensive line and the offensive play calling were the biggest issues on the team. By the end of the season, Seattle's defense started to rise. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of improvement this offseason for Seattle, just based on the fact that outside of the draft, I don't think they're going to make a major impact. But I could be wrong. The Steelers don't have a quarterback. They seem to hit a wall with Mike Tomlin. I could see them actually taking a dip this year. This might be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. I'm not going to lie. It does definitely have the first feeling of this could be the worst Steeler team I've seen in a while. But that being said, you kind of count on the stability. A lot of the veterans on the roster, they do have a good defense on paper. There's things that you could look at, but a lot of their players are aging too in bad, on the defense. The Dallas Cowboys, I think with Dak, this is a very fair evaluation because I think he'll keep them steady. I think that with Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb, you're going to win some games. But I don't really see them as a contender unless they make some drastic changes. And Schottenheimer is an iffy hire, in my opinion.
Make this bet for me, but I'm very curious of what the odds would be. I feel like all three of these teams are guaranteed to win at least 7 games. And guaranteed not to win more than 11 games. They all feel like 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe if everything goes right, 11-win teams. You look at Dallas, felt like everything went wrong last year. They won 7. You look at Pittsburgh, felt like
Wait, Dallas won 7 games? Really?
Everything went right last year. They won 11. Seattle.
Steelers won 11, which is crazy because they were the worst 11-win team I've ever seen.
Right in the middle with 10. That feels to me, again, where they're probably headed for next season, with the real question being for Pittsburgh, who's their quarterback going to be? And for Dallas, what type of coach is Brian Schottenheimer going to be?
Yep.
Stuck in neutral. So I
disagree with this one. Why? Because the Chargers have lots of cap space. It's going to be the second year. And I understand that Nick is a Chiefs fan, so he's probably going to be negative on the teams within his division, which is fair. But the Chargers almost, to put them in stuck in neutral, I just don't see it. Because I don't think there's anything about their offseason, projecting their offseason moving forward, that reflects that. Because they'll have another draft class with Harbaugh at the helm. They'll have another good cap offseason where they've got like quite a bit of money. I think they're in the top 5 in cap space that they can spend on some flaws and deficiencies, whether it be their defensive line, their interior offensive line, their wide receiving core, tight end, whatever it may be that they want to improve. They have a good quarterback. We already know that. They have some fundamental elements, good players in the secondary, 1 or 2 pass rushers. They've got 2 good tackles. They've got enough there to like look forward to and project that they'll take another step forward. And Harbaugh, everywhere he's been, has steadily inclined everywhere he's been. Denver, I could see where they could be stuck in neutral. That being said, they have a decent amount of cap. I think they're around $40 million. They've got Bo Nix entering year 2, which is promising, although a sophomore slump is always very possible. They have one of the better O-lines in football. There could be possibilities where they take a leap. That being said, they were quite fortunate this year. Their schedule was pretty weak, and their defense played out of their mind, and their O-line also played way better than expectations. Like, there was elements of their team that outperformed expectation. They could take a step back on that basis, or maybe maintain about the same. The Vikings, I could actually see getting worse with J.J. McCarthy, just because he'll be coming off an injury. He's inexperienced. He'll basically be a rookie. That being said, there's others that love J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings, I think, will be good defensively because they have Brian Flores and a lot of good pieces there. Van Ginkel, Grenard, the pieces up front. And then offensively, they've got a ton of skill talent. They do need to find a running back. The Vikings are in a tough division too, with the Packers and the Lions, so that's always interesting. They'll probably take a step back because they probably won't win 14 games, but they probably could win 10, and I wouldn't be shocked. They have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. Tampa Bay, I could see them certainly taking a step back because some of their players are getting much older, like Mike Evans, Levante David, things like that. You've got Baker coming off his best season of his career. He just lost his offensive coordinator, and Todd Bowles could be exposed. So I could see, as much as I like Tampa, I could see Tampa taking a step back for sure. So I would actually lean towards the Chargers moving up. I'm not sure who's above these teams, but I could see the Chargers. They're poorly described by stuck in neutral. I would put them up. Broncos, I would probably have here. I think that's okay. The Vikings, and I'm higher on the Broncos, I think. Probably Vikings and Broncos are about the same, but Bucks I'd probably have lower. I'd probably have high floor, low ceiling for the Bucks, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that.
I expect very similar seasons from last year, for next year and last year, these 4 teams.
Honestly, as much as I like Baker, as much as I like the Bucks, I would be genuinely surprised if they actually won their division again. I would.
Now, again, there hasn't been free agency, there hasn't been the draft. This is why they're the way too early tiers. But the point being, I like all 4 of these teams. I like, or love in some cases, all 4 of the coaches. I think all 4 of them have proven at least, well, the Chargers and Bucks have proven they have good quarterbacks. The Broncos quarterback had a very good rookie year, and the Vikings have a rookie, we'll see, who's taken right ahead of the Broncos quarterback. I just don't see the upside that some people see, particularly with the Chargers and the Vikings.
I don't really see it with the Vikings this year, maybe like a year or 2 from now. With the Chargers, I definitely see the upside if they make the correct moves.
Bounce back season. So all 3 of
bounce back season, 49ers, Texans, Packers. I think this is correctly described, but I would probably have the Niners and the Texans higher. I don't know how many more teams are to come, but I do feel like both of those teams in particular are Super Bowl contenders. We'll see what they do this offseason, but I think both of them, the Texans did still make the playoffs. They had nearly an identical season, so I'm not exactly sure it's a bounce back. It's kind of weird. Packers, same thing. They basically had the same season, right? They lost 1 game before last year. So I don't know. Like the Niners, yes, that does make sense. But the Niners and Texans, I'd have a tier above the Packers. I think the Packers, they need to do something aggressive this offseason, whether it be a receiver, whether it be a corner, a defender, like a big-time baller. Like, I need someone. They're just out-talented by Philadelphia, by Detroit, by some of these teams in the NFC that they're going to have to get past. So, potentially a healthy San Francisco. So, Green Bay, they need to push the right buttons. Texans, I feel like they're almost there. They got to fix the O-line. San Francisco, they've got to make some critical decisions in free agency, but as long as they just get healthy, they should be back in the playoffs and maybe win their division.
These teams, to me, had various levels of disappointing 2024s. So for the Niners, it was disastrous, but we laid it all to the injuries. For the Texans, it was odd because they still won the division. They still won around in the playoffs, but it felt to me...
Yeah, it was underwhelming. It wasn't a step back, though. It's not, I wouldn't categorize it as a bounce back. I just feel like it was underwhelming due to the expectation.
Like a disappointing year because they had legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, and it's not like they just had one bad playoff game. At no point in the regular season did they look like that team. And similar with the Packers, where there was real, now they still found a way in the playoffs, but you hope that this, in 2025, they can have the year that many people expect them to have in.
Yeah, I think the Texans they have the talent. The Texans have the talent. The Texans had flaws, though, clear flaws. The Packers, I feel like they have some talent, but I just feel like they're missing something.
2024.
Gronk, spike the like button if you're with me.
Fork in the road. The Rams and the Bengals. And by that,
I want to hear him describe this.
I mean this. What are you going to do with Matt Stafford?
Okay, this is weird. Why is Matthew Stafford being traded? Can anyone explain why? Like, does anyone know? Like, does McVay hate his wife that much? Like, and by his wife, I mean Stafford's wife, not McVay. The Bengals, I think where you have them listed is about fair. I don't think they're a better team than the Texans or the Niners, though. I think they should be in similar categories. But the Bengals, they're mostly about having Joe Burrow. And so when you have Joe Burrow, if you can just get an average defense and you've got still a very good offense with a very good quarterback, you've got a chance. The Rams, obviously, if they trade Stafford, they're plummeting on this list. But, like, they've got a young defense. I think they could use some work at linebacker and in the secondary. Offensively, they need help at receiver now that Cooper Kupp's gone. But obviously, Stafford's getting older, but I mean, he still played really well this year. I don't really know what they're going to do there.
What are you going to do with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? For the Rams, I don't know why they seem to want to get out of the Stafford business, but they do. For the Bengals, I know why they are looking at...
Do the Rams know something about Stafford from like a physical standpoint, like an injury standpoint that we should know about? Is that what this is? Because I've seen these rumors and I'm very confused by them.
Moving on from T. Higgins, are you going to make sure you don't eventually move on from Jamar Chase? Are you going to pay him? What are you going to do? And are you going to actually be able to address some of those defensive issues?
Bengals have enough cap space to do this. It's up to their front office.
Simple tier. Fix the defense. That's it. For the Lions,
honestly, the Lions don't have to do much to fix their defense. They need to get healthy. They need to probably replace Carlton Davis because he's a free agent. They'll probably have to replace him. They need to add an opposite edge rusher to their defensive line, and pretty much they're fine. I mean, maybe you want to add another corner, but you've got the draft as well, right? So the Lions roster-wise could actually look better than they did last year. But the problem with Detroit, in my opinion, is the coaching staff. They took so many pieces from that coaching staff that made this team so electric, especially offensively. So that's my concern about the team. Washington, they have enough cap to improve their team from a pass rushing standpoint, from a wide receiver standpoint. They've got the young quarterback intact. But this was a team that was very fortunate to win a lot of close games, and they were very kind of a fluky team. With that rookie sensation, will there be a bit of a wall that they hit? Will there be a regression? Will there be a slump? Or will they build on what they did? And that's a hard question to answer. I think if they can get more talent like the Texans did in year 2 around Stroud, it limits the floor, right? It limits the floor of the team dipping, right? The Texans were able to add talent. They still didn't live up to expectations, but they didn't fall off. They still maintained a playoff spot. Maybe Washington can do something similar.
Probably just get guys back healthy for the most part, and also replace your great defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. For Washington, it is poor.
Great is wild.
resources and draft picks into the defense. They weren't bedeviled by injuries. They just don't have the personnel right now on that side of the ball. 2025 or bust.
Interesting that it's labeled as 2025 or bust. Maybe for the Ravens, but hear me out on the Bills. The Bills are in a great spot this offseason. They have a good amount of cap space, or they will, based on contract restructures. They have a lot of their main pieces returning next year, and they don't have to sign them. And honestly, if they don't even win in 2025, what that could actually mean is that McDermott's out. They get a new coach, and that could actually allow them to get over the top, because I think that's ultimately what's holding them back right now. McDermott, good coach, not a great coach, maybe not Super Bowl caliber. That might be the reason I don't pick them to win the Super Bowl next year. I do think the Bills could be a more talented roster, though, entering 2025, which also might be enough to put them over the top, though. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy if they went out there and got a receiver, got a corner, or like a safety, I should say, or another defensive lineman, or a Myles Garrett, or like a huge difference maker, and that took them over the top and they won the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't be surprised. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. These could be the two best quarterbacks in the league next year once again. And the Ravens did have all the elements of like switching coordinators last offseason, all the defenders kind of being out and finding new homes, right? The offensive line being kind of replaced. So the Ravens and the Bills could both be teams that actually build upon what they did last year, unlike potentially Kansas City. I would put the nine. We'll discuss this at the end, but I would have the Bills and the Ravens above the Chiefs, and I'm pretty sure the Chiefs will be next. We'll see.
One of these teams got to break through now, and both teams have good coaches. Both teams have great quarterbacks, but especially because you just saw a team manhandle the Chiefs, I think there will be less grace if either or both of these teams run into the Chiefs in the playoffs and get whacked by them. It's not going to be like, well, nobody can do anything about the Chiefs. You just saw a team be up 34-0 on them. Third, first, second, fourth, first, second. That's the Chiefs.
What type of category?
Finishes in the NFL during Patrick Mahomes' 7 seasons. Now, some smart people think that it's over. They're done. Dynasty over. Colin did a whole obituary for him.
They are done. Nick, I told you. I made a video already, brother.
Wilds is fathoming. He's not.
They're done, bro. They're done. They're getting old. Kelsey's retiring. Joe Tooney's old. Chris Jones is old. Patrick Mahomes is washed. They don't have a running back. They're losing multiple receivers. Andy Reid's eating more burgers. The defensive line doesn't have a pass rusher. The secondary's losing Justin Reid. Nick Bolton's a free agent. You guys are washed, bro. Honestly, though, not even like playing around, the Bills and the Ravens have way more promising prospects for 2026 because of all the reasons I brought up. The Chiefs are losing players and or have to sign players, have to maintain where they're at, while those teams can build upon where they were. And the only reason I could see it not happening is because the Bills don't have the coach, and we still need to see Lamar play clutch in the playoffs. But overall, I think the Bills and Ravens could be better than the Chiefs. I wouldn't put the Bengals ahead of the Chiefs, but I could very well see the Texans being better than the Chiefs next year, depending on what they do. And then obviously the Eagles are going to be first, right?
He's not predicting. He's just fathoming
It can be
world. He's fathoming a world.
I fathom AI.
Exactly.
You know.
He's fathoming. I happen to think that another way to look at it is they just had the single greatest season any two-time defending Super Bowl champions ever had. It ended with a thud, but I think they were writing their obituary a tad too early. And last but not least, very simple, the champs. The committee is fair. They're bringing a stint.
The one thing with the Eagles, as he finishes this off and we finish this off, Philadelphia does have some free agents they're going to have to handle, right? And then the second thing is Kellen Moore is leaving as their offensive coordinator. They're going to have to hire somebody that can correctly get the most out of Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts, it's solid quarterback, even a good quarterback, okay? It's just hard to predict that Jalen Hurts-led football team is going to win the Super Bowl back-to-back years. That is my opinion, right? It's hard for defenses to maintain the same level due to regression, due to players leaving, due to injuries, all those sort of things, right? Philadelphia has a great roster. They'll probably have the best roster entering the NFL season next year. You're already hearing about A.J. Brown potentially wanting to leave and stuff like that. Maybe come to New England, bro. But, I would put Philly first out of respect for what they did this year, and I still think they'll probably have one of the best rosters. I would put the Bills and Ravens ahead of the Chiefs. But we'll talk about the NFL tiers when I do my own, but this is just off the top of my head. I think the Lions are in a good spot. Actually, I thought, other than the coaching staff, I feel like their roster's in a good spot. They'll probably be a playoff team. I'm not sure if they'll be a contender due to the coaching. Commanders are in a good spot, but I'd move them down just because I feel like they're a bit fluky this year. The Rams, I don't know what's going on with Stafford. The Bengals have a lot of questions to answer. I'd move the Texans up probably multiple tiers. I'd put the Texans with the Lions, and I'd probably move the Commanders down. And I'd probably put the Niners with the Commanders, or maybe even ahead. Like, I think the Niners are going to be really, really good. The Super Bowl's in San Francisco, by the way, so they're going to want to push for that. Green Bay is a good team, definitely above. I think Green Bay, the Chargers, are in like similar lane for me. And I'd probably put the Bengals in that tier too, but that's kind of the way I look at it. I think New England is underrated. I think that the Jets are overrated. I really like his high floor, low ceiling tier. I think the Raiders could be sneaky, and the Saints and Panthers are potentially sneaky as well. I definitely think the Titans, Browns, and Giants are the worst teams, probably. I'd probably move the Colts back into the bottom tier because they have Anthony Richardson. The Cardinals will probably be bad too. But that's the way I see it, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for reacting with me. It's Mitch. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL reactions and videos just like this. Peace.